Okay.
I'm just going to move this to this screen so I look at the camera. Okay. So I'm going to welcome and call everyone to order to the October 25th Yolo County Fire Safe Council meeting. The first action is to approve the agenda for this meeting. So there it is. So looking for take a moment.
I move that we approve the agenda.
And this is Kate Laddish. I'll second.
All right, move in section. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Actually, I should have stopped before I. Are there any additions? We're going pretty quick, so. Nobody was talking before. Okay. Any opposed? This is your time to speak up. Hearing none, looks like that passed. I jumped on that pretty quickly. Okay. Second one is to approve the minutes from August 23rd.
Jesse, Cape Valley. I move to approve the minutes.
And Britton West Winter is second.
All right. Any all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay? Hearing none, that has passed. So we're through 1, 2, 3 pretty quick. Any, I guess, quick member announcements?
I've got lots to say, but they're all in the regular other items. So
I have a small announcement. The Cache Key Conservancy has opened the pre-registration for our second annual Let Po Good Fire Cultural Fire Awareness Workshop. It's going to be over Veterans Day weekend, which is just in 3 weeks. I think there'll be more details about it as we get our speaker lineup finalized and the times at the end of this week. But if you head over to the Cache Creek Conservancy website, there is Friday will be at the Cache Creek Nature Preserve. It'll be open to the public. We'll have some speakers and some demonstrations on cultural fire. And then Saturday and Sunday is open only to fire professionals. And that will be a hands-on fire workshop up on tribal land with the Ochadehi Fire Department. So I just wanted to invite y'all to come attend our event if you're interested. And that's it.
One question about that. Only open to fire professionals, or what about us that work in disaster services? My name is Jorge Zavala, Catholic Charities Disaster Services Program Manager.
I think just because it is on tribal land, Yocha wanted to sort of, keep the attendance fairly limited. And so I think it's designed to, that workshop is going to be designed for people who are already doing fire, putting fire on the ground, because it's going to be helping to get people who are, a working fire professional experience and sort of awareness in the cultural fire realm. But the Friday workshop is open to anybody. So that's for, and we've got some folks coming in from the California Air Resources Board and the department supervisors and just volunteers and interested parties. It'll be more designed for just learning about what cultural fire is and why it's important and why we should all be opening our doors and land to that activity. So.
Great to hear that, similar to what the Amamutsun tribal band was doing along the coast. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of really great stuff going on in California with getting cultural fire back into action after so many decades of suppression. So it's been a great effort.
Hey, Gladys, you have your hand up.
Yep, I have a quick announcement, thanks. And this is more fish than fires, but it actually involves a lot of the partners who are here. And that's that the annual Winter Salmon Festival will be on Saturday, November 4th from 1 to 4 p.m. in Rotary Park, right at the intersection of Main Street and Railroad Avenue in Winters. And so who knows, you might be able to actually get to see the salmon, but since a lot of the partners who are here will also have tables there, there actually be a chance that people could meet each other like in person in the analog 3-dimensional world. So it'd be great to see you there.
The time on that is 11 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yolo Solano RCDs will be there, also representing Fire Safe Council. Or
Yes, any more announcements? Are we ready for, I guess, the special presentation?
Yes,
Over to Tanya.
yes. Kristen, are you ready?
Yeah, I am on, and luckily Zone Haven is also on, so they will actually be doing the presentation, not me, but I can do an introduction for the group. So this is Kristen from Yolo County OES. Right now for the operational area, we're evaluating some tools to improve our evacuational awareness, evacuation process. We do have Know Your Zones built out in ArcGIS. But one thing with that is it requires a lot of specialty ArcGIS individuals to really make that map live and useful during an incident. So we're evaluating Zone Haven. We're also looking at perimeter and just trying to figure out, are there tools out there that can be beneficial to our first responders, but also be beneficial to our community and create more awareness of what's happening in the incident and what they need to do. So at that, I will stop and turn it over to Zone Haven. So Zone Haven will do a demo for you and answer any questions you may have. And like I said, we're evaluating and figuring out if these tools could be useful to Yolo County, and especially in our high fire risk areas. We feel the more we can do, the better.
All right, I'll go ahead and take it from there. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ken Kemna. I'm an account executive with Genesis. Genesis acquired Zone Haven a couple of years ago, so the product name has actually changed. It's now Genesis Protect EVAC, but it's certainly nice to meet all of you. I'm reasonably new with the company. I've been here since May of this year, retired fire chief out of Santa Clara County there in California. Failed at retirement, moved up to Central Oregon and worked a few more years as fire chief up there, and then finally decided to pull the plug and retire full-time at the beginning of this year and made the move over here to Genesis. I got really interested in what Zone Haven was doing back in the 2020 fire season, fairly significant fire season for both California and Oregon. We did a lot of evacuations in both states. I became very interested in what they were doing, specifically because I had a connection to fires that were taking place in Santa Cruz County, where I had family and I was doing a little bit of intel work. I got to look at what they were doing and realized that it was something that I wanted to try and bring to my own department and to the county that I was currently living in, which is Deschutes County. And happily, we did a statewide study. Several organizations participated in that. They are now customers and using the system, but it's something that I'm pretty passionate about, which is why I am here. But it's a pleasure to be with you all today. And to meet you. I appreciate the work that you do. Had a lot of experience working with fire safe councils in my own jurisdiction, and I truly appreciate what you bring to the table. It's critical for our communities that we have active and engaged folks like yourself doing this good work. With me today is Andrew Hendricks. He is another account executive with Genesis. He is my partner, and together we work the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast. And doing the demo today for you is our systems engineer, Adam Pukes. Adam is going to do the demo for you and take you through the system. And I will go ahead and turn it over to Adam. And I will throw out there, please feel free to ask questions if you have questions. We really like to have interactive demos if we can and presentations, and we really want to make sure you get your questions answered. Feel free to stop us. I'll be monitoring to see if anybody's hand goes up, and we'll jump in and answer any questions you might have. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Adam.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ken, and thank you everybody for taking the time to learn a little bit more about Genesis EVAC, formerly Zone Haven. I will say I'm trying to share my screen, but it says the host disabled participant screen sharing. So I don't know if that's something that we can switch on just real quick.
You should
I
be
think you're
on
good now.
Awesome. Yep, thank you. All right, so what you're seeing on my screen here is Santa Clara County, California, actually. And one of the things that we do, right, formally in the name Zone Haven, is we take any county, city, any territory, right, and we run it through an algorithm in order to come up with these preliminary zones. And in order to come up with these zones right now, and if you're familiar with zones, if you already have zones, that's something that we can absolutely just take and import directly into the system. We don't have to reinvent the wheel for you to start leveraging the system to kind of get some of the value out of it. But if you don't have any zones, or if you wanted just to kind of see the zones that we could come up with, we'd be more than happy to run, Yolo County through this exercise and kind of see what it comes up with. And when we do run it through that algorithm, it takes a look at about 30 different data sets in order to come up with these zones. And so it's looking at things like the topography of the land. It's going to look at any man-made structures, highways, roads, railroads, any buildings in the area, any structures, what types of buildings those are, right? So whether or not it's like a residential area and it's single family homes or multifamily homes, if it's industrial, commercial, warehouse, all of those things kind of play a factor into how we come up with these zone boundaries. And the nice thing about this is these are just kind of preliminary based on what we see in the area. And then you absolutely have the final say in what these zones look like. So nobody's going to know the territory better than you folks. And so maybe after the fact, you're looking at it and you're like, hey, this zone cup 009, it's a little bit too big. It maybe needs to be split in half, or maybe merged with zone 10, or maybe merged with zone 8, right? So you absolutely have final say in what these zones look like. And part of the reason that we do zone-based evacuation and pre-planning is so that rather than trying to, say, hey, we need to evacuate everybody north of Stevens Creek that's west of the cemetery and south of the park and, things like that, it really just kind of helps cut down and get everybody on the same page. And as everyone kind of starts to use the software, anybody that needs access to it can absolutely see exactly what's happening. So it's going to also cut down on the amount of communication that's required going back and forth, confirming, hey, is this the right area? Or is this what you're talking about, right? We can update the status of any zone at any time. And when any of those status changes are made, everybody looking at the same common operating picture is going to see exactly what you mean and what you're referring to. So it does provide a little bit more clarity when it comes to, specific areas that maybe need to be evacuated, or maybe just a status change, right? Maybe there's some police activity in the area and you need to have people shelter in place, whatever the case may be. Now, some of the things that we provide, and I'm just going to, and really, I was told I've only got about 15, 20 minutes, so I'm just going to kind of hit on the highlights. So some of the things that we provide for each of the zones is we're going to be able to provide to you a summary of each of these zones here. And so part of the summary information that's included would be the daytime and nighttime population. For this one particular zone, zone 9, we have a daytime population of 1,800, a nighttime population of almost 2,200. 500 vehicles during the day, 1,000 at night. It's 224 acres, and there's 563 structures within this zone. So this gives you a lot of really useful information very quickly, right? You don't have to go dig through a bunch of old, findings and try to see, what does this neighborhood contain? How many people are here? What's actually here? This is going to show you very quickly, what the population is, what the impact of whatever situation you might be experiencing is going to be. And what's nice is if we needed to, maybe it's a larger area, right? This is a couple neighborhoods down here in zone 9, but maybe there's something in the corner of this zone. And so it might impact all 4 of these different zones that we are seeing on the screen. So if I select them, it's going to automatically update the summary population for the 4 zones that we have. So now we can see, right, the daytime, nighttime population. Now we're looking at 4,300 people and nearly 7,000 at night. Obviously the daytime, nighttime vehicle counts goes way up. It's now an area of 830 acres and almost 2,000 structures. So just some really quick high level information that you can get at your fingertips very quickly if you have an incident in any particular area to try to figure out what is the scope of this, how many people may be potentially impacted. Now, in addition to just giving you the summary information, right, for each of the zones, one other thing that we're going to help you automatically do, right, and we preload this information for your county, is we're going to help you identify all the different critical evacuation facilities. So those are going to be things like schools, hospitals, childcare facilities, assisted living facilities. And if I toggle that button on, you'll notice a bunch of blue dots appear on my screen. And so in the event that there was a fire in the area and we had to maybe issue an evacuation warning for zone 9, well, we're going to know right away that, hey, it looks like there's 3 childcare facilities in this area. There's a school, there's an assisted living facility, and there's a couple different childcare facilities that are bordering this zone as well. So we're going to help you identify all that information. So again, when it comes to your pre-planning, when you're setting up an evacuation pre-plan, you're trying to figure out who do we dispatch where, how do we get our folks in the right position in order to make them the most meaningful impacts and hopefully get these people out as safely and efficiently as possible. This is just some of that additional information that we're going to provide for each of the zones within your county so that very quickly, you can see exactly what is in these zones. Now, just as important as critical evacuation facilities, other things that we're going to help you identify and we'll preload for you will be arrival points. And the arrival points are just like you're seeing on my screen here, right? So it's going to be on-ramps, temporary evacuation points, resource centers, animal shelters, regular shelters, and rally points. So if we turn these on, you're going to see some green dots start to appear on my screen. And these are going to be, some critical evacuation, or not critical evacuation facilities, but it's going to be, arrival points. Where if we're asking these folks to leave their homes for whatever reason, where are they supposed to go? And so we've identified a number of different schools in the area where people can go. We can see there's an on-ramp that's identified here at the top of the screen. So a number of different things just to kind of give you a little bit more context about the areas that you may be potentially evacuating and kind of, how you can best facilitate that evacuation. So we also, in that same vein, right, and we call these layers, right, when we turn these things on and off, these are critical evacuation facilities and arrival points. But we also have the same concept of layers, so we can show live traffic. We feed this information in online, so it updates in. Oh, sorry, was there a question? Oh, okay, I'll continue. So this is going to pull in live traffic data for the area. So if you had to issue an evacuation right now, where are the traffic points? Where are we going to most likely see the most congestion, things like that. So you can get a pretty good indication of what traffic is looking like, in real time. But when it comes to pre-planning and getting things set up ahead of time so that you can communicate this effectively with the folks in the field, we also have the ability to turn on intersection counts. And so an intersection count is going to show us the increased number of vehicles at any particular intersection if we were to evacuate these 4 zones all at the same time. And so as we kind of zoom in a little bit here, we'll see a bunch of different colored dots, and the blue dots are showing us the number of increased vehicle count for each particular intersection. So a blue dot is not hugely impactful, right? We were seeing 93 additional vehicles here, but as those dots start to turn purple and pink and then red, that's where we're going to see our most heavily congested areas. And so we can take that information and we can say, okay, well, if we know this is where our most congested areas are going to be, then we're going to probably want to set up some traffic control points, maybe even some road closures into this particular area. And so we can toggle those on. And the nice thing about these traffic control points is not only is it going to provide details about this particular traffic control point, but it's also going to give some context to those people that you're sending to man these traffic control points. So we can see here for this particular traffic control point, that was our most heavily congested intersection. You just give it a name. So typically that's just going to be something like, the intersection. Is it a traffic control point or a road closure? This is where it is. And to add, additional critical evacuation facilities, additional, evacuation points, if you wanted to add a road closure or extra traffic control points, everything you do here is kind of just point and click. So if I wanted to move this or add a new one, I literally just grab this pin and drop it anywhere I would like on the screen. As long as it's touching a road, then that will appear right there. And then you can start customizing it a little bit further. So here for this one particular traffic control point, you can see we want 3 sworn officers, 2 non-sworn. We can even include things like, if you need traffic cones, barricades, lights, or PA systems. And most importantly, down here under the description, what are these folks supposed to do with all this additional traffic, right? So we want to direct all the traffic eastbound on Stephen Creeks Boulevard towards Highway 85. So this is really useful in a number of different ways, but one of the most impactful ways is that maybe you have a large scale fire and you have a bunch of different people coming in from neighboring jurisdictions. You have people coming in from different counties trying to help out. Maybe they're not familiar with your pre-plans. Maybe they're unfamiliar with Zone Haven or EVAC, as we call it nowadays. You could very quickly tell these folks, hey, here's a QR code specific to this exact pre-plan that we're referring to. Just scan this with your cell phone, with your tablet. You can have it with you. Somebody could even download this and email it or text it to whomever needs to have it. And each one of these pre-plans is updated anytime we make any changes to it. So if we were to add a critical evacuation facility or add a rally point or add a stop, a road closure or anything, all of that stuff stays in the pre-plan going forward. So this kind of becomes a repository for you. And then if anybody wanted to scan this, even right now, you would be able to scan this QR code and get the evacuation pre-plan for these 4 zones. But what's nice is in shorthand, very quickly, I could say, hey, Ken, I know you don't know about where Zone 9 is, but we need you over in Zone 9 at evacuation or traffic control point number 2. And so without him having any prior knowledge to the pre-plan or anything that we'd set up prior, he could download this. He could take a look at it on his phone. He could say, okay, here's Zone 9. I can see it on a map. Here's traffic control point 2 at Stephen Creek Boulevard and South Sterling Road. And then off he goes. So it really helps, again, cut down on the amount of communication required in order to get people in the right positions, in order to help, facilitate those evacuations smoothly and quickly. And basically what these are, right, this evacuation pre-plan, or we call these are PDF booklets. It's literally just a physical copy of everything that we're seeing inside the system. And not only do we use this when we have other folks coming in from different jurisdictions, but when there are those large scale emergencies and maybe there's fast moving fire that knocks out communications. What we've seen is a lot of other of our customers, they'll print these out, they'll stick them in all their first responder vehicles. So if all that you have to communicate is your radio, you can still leverage all this information that you've spent all this time, curating and putting into the system, because you have it printed out and everybody has access to it within their first responder vehicle, whether that be an ambulance or a fire truck or a squad car, whatever the case may be. So that's what these are. Those are the PDF booklets. And every time a change is made to any part of the or to the evacuation pre-plan, that information is automatically updated and stored in the system going forward forever. Now, I've only got a few more minutes. So basically, really wanted to highlight, right, is that we can help you divide your county up into zones if you haven't done so already. We can help provide a lot of context and critical information about what is in each of these zones. And then that really is going to help facilitate the communication. And ideally, right, this becomes kind of the common operating picture for fire, for law, for anybody in the emergency management office. Everybody can kind of get a good look and feel at exactly what's going on. And before I hop into a simulation, I'll just really quickly show you. So I usually run through a scenario, but I'll cut it short for the sake of everybody on the call. But if we did need to communicate something to the public, we also offer a public-facing website that anybody can go to at any time to see what's going on within their community, within neighboring communities, if they're also using the software, and they can take a look at all this information. And so in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn on some of these arrival points. And so let's say, we had a fire spark up here down in Zone 9. Somebody calls it into dispatch. Dispatch asks somebody in fire to go and confirm that there is an actual fire down here in Varian Park. And once that happens, there's a couple of things that you can do, right? So if, for example, let's say Ken is in the field, he calls back into dispatch. He says, yeah, whoever called and reported this fire, it's real. We need to go ahead and issue an evacuation order for Zone 9. But based on the current weather conditions, I also recommend that we put Zone 18 and Zone 19 and Zone 10 into a different status as well, just maybe alerting the folks that there's something going on and they need to kind of be aware. And so very quickly, you can update the status of this. And I guess before I jump into the update status, you also have the ability on the fly. And this usually comes when you're letting people know that it's okay to go back into their homes. Maybe, the south side of this particular zone is still kind of got some issues going on, but the north side of this zone is totally fine. You do have the ability on the fly to actually split or merge zones. So if I only wanted to notify the top half of this zone of people, hey, it's okay to go back to your homes, you could do that by clicking on this split tool, and you could create a split on the fly at any time. It's going to split this zone into half. It's also going to update the north of, south of, east of, west of for the top half and the bottom half. And then it will be tagged as zone CUP-009A and 009B. So you do have a graphical, depiction of the change that you made, as well as all the updated information, including the summary information, right? So the population, the vehicle, the area, the structures, all of that will automatically update when you create that split. So if we did need to update statuses of zones, you just select the zones that you want to update the statuses for. And my computer's being really fun and slow. You just select the zones you want, select update status. Now you can update the status of all 4 zones at once. If we just selected this top drop down, it's going to affect all these zones. Or you can say, like Ken recommended, and Ken could literally be sitting in his truck in zone 9, and maybe Ken doesn't have the right access, right? So everything in the system is role-based access. So if we want Ken to be able to make recommendations about maybe an evacuation, right, because we know in California especially, right, only law can actually issue a lawful evacuation. So even if Ken wanted to, he couldn't publish this information to the public. So maybe we'd make his access, it's internal only. So then Ken says, hey, this is what I'm recommending. And rather than trying to explain all of this stuff on the phone, he just says, take a look. Let's put these 3 zones into an advisory. Let's put the one zone, zone 9, into an evacuation status. And then everybody can see exactly what Ken is referring to without him trying to explain this and multiple people listening in on the radio, or maybe he's, on a phone call with dispatch and they're trying to relay this information. Really can kind of cut down on a lot of that noise and allow Ken to just make a recommendation internally. And then once it's approved by everybody that needs to be involved, then you can go ahead and push this out to the public. Now, for the sake of the demo, I'm going to make this community visible. So you'll see the stripes will go away. And we'll just say there's a fast moving fire, at Varian Park. And now right from here, in an emergency, in a critical situation, we're trying to get information out to the public as quickly as possible. You can literally, from right here, you can say, all right, well, we definitely want to close access to zone 9. So we don't want anybody going in or out down here. We also want to close the south portion of this affected area. So you just click on any of the road closures that you would like to make public or make community visible, is what we call it in the system. So people stop going in and out of that area. And then we can see the traffic control points. Typically, that's not something that you need to share with the public, but you could absolutely make those community visible if you would like. And then since we are asking some folks in zone 9 to leave their homes, where are we asking these people to go? So we can say, hey, let's have them, they can rally at the junior high school. They can rally over here at De Anza College. And they can even, meet up over here at the Quinlan Community Center. So right from this screen, everything is kind of point and click. You just turn on the things that you want people to see. Once everybody agrees and you want to push this information out to the public, you select continue to review. And this is just kind of your last warning of like, hey, this is what you're about to do. Are you sure you want to do it? And it's going to give us a quick little summary of what that is. So we can see we have 1 zone going into an evacuation order, 3 zones in an advisory status. This is the reason why. We have identified 3 arrival points and 3 traffic control points. And then what's neat about this is once we press publish, it's going to automatically go to our public facing side, which I'll show you here in just a moment. It's going to go, we have a mass notification piece as well. So if you needed to send out like iPause notifications or notifications to different, different channels, you can do that. Waze is going to automatically pick this up as well. So if there's anybody navigating through your county using Waze, it's going to pick that up on their software and automatically reroute folks around this area so they're not being actively, directed into an evacuation zone. And then this is also integrated into Tablet Command as well, one of our new partners. So if you have any folks, right, I know fire folks especially are very familiar with Tablet Command. You can see all of the zones on your Tablet Command tablet in your software, and you would be able to see any of the changes reflected within that, within Tablet Command as well. So you don't have to kind of bounce back and forth from system to system. So once we press publish, everybody's agreed. This is what we want to say. This is what we want to do. We hit that button, and that's going to make that community visible. So now we have 2 things we can do, right? We can download this map image. That can be really useful if you want to send this out over social media, right? Send it out over Twitter, on Facebook. Typically, we'll also see this, people will send this over to like a local news outlet. Maybe they're running a breaking news story on an evacuation order that has just been issued. So they can now not only tell folks in the area exactly what's going on, but then show them a picture of the exact zone that is being evacuated so people can all be on the same page, right? And hopefully get out as quickly as possible. And then if you're using, something like Code Red or Everbridge in order to send mass notifications out to a wider area of folks, you can literally just click on copy the reasons in the zones to a clipboard, and you just paste that into your mass notification tool and off it goes. So it really gives you lots of flexibility. You're not duplicating efforts in multiple systems in order just to get this information out. So I'm just going to show you quickly the last thing here, and before I jump into the simulation, then I'll wrap this up. This is what we call aware. So this is the public facing side. So any of the changes that we had made are going to show up here. We're also going to see our evacuation points as well as any of the traffic control or road closures that we issued. And anybody within this zone is going to get a notification automatically. You don't have to register for the system to get these notifications. It's just based on where you're located. And when we click on that zone 9, you're going to see the status is under an evacuation order. It's going to show us the neighborhoods that it's surrounding. We're always encouraging folks to download the mobile app. So not that they have to have it, but just as another way that we can get a hold of people in these critical situations. And then we're also going to provide the evacuation points. So they can click on this on their cell phone, on their tablet, on their computer, and they can see exactly where we're asking them to go. They can even view the road closures on the map just by clicking on those. And then again, we're also going to provide the zone information. So the north of, south of, east of, west of. And lastly, any links that you think it might be important for the public to consume or to, just refresh themselves on. So if that's something like Ready, Set, Go or emergency preparedness and planning, any links that you would like to include for any particular zone, you could absolutely include right here on this page. And so that is more or less how we would see someone leveraging this tool in real time if there was some sort of a fire or something like that where they needed to update zone statuses, notify the public, let them know what's going on, where to go, where not to go, and all of that valuable information in these critical moments. So yeah, I don't know if I'll have enough time to run through the simulation portion, but I will pause there. Maybe that might be the end of it, but I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody might have about what I've shown so far.
I have a question.
Yeah.
A lot of data goes into this. How do you ground truth your data?
Yeah, so if you're talking about like the summary information, the population, vehicles, area structures, things like that, that information we get from, it's called Oak Ridge National Laboratory. They've actually just been recently certified as more accurate than Census Bureau data, and they have a whole really nice write-up on their website that I'd be more than happy to share the link with if anybody wants to dive in a little bit deeper. But they do population, structure data, all of that stuff globally, but they also have a specific team that only focuses on North America and getting this information updated, and they update their stuff constantly. So we partner with them in order to get that, to try to get as accurate as information as we can for each of these zones.
And if we have things that they have missed on the ground that we know about, can we feed that to you so your maps are better?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you know things that, like critical evacuation facilities in particular, lots of times some of that data can be a little bit stale. So you absolutely have the ability to add things manually, or you'll have a customer success person you can work with, and you can say, hey, here's a list of 25 things we need in the system, and they can upload that information for you.
Great. Thanks.
Got it. All right. I don't know if there's no.
There's
Yeah.
a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't. Oh, yep. I see
One
some.
question
Yeah.
is, okay, looks like you're answering in terms of quick maps used by Caltrans. And then can it handle livestock data?
Yeah, absolutely. So under.
Go ahead, Adam.
No, you go ahead.
Nope, you got it, my friend.
Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to identify automatically, or we'll try our best to do, is put animal shelter data. So livestock data will be there because we know that's going to require a lot of additional, special attention, right? Do we need to get, how many trailers do we need to send? Do they have 10 horses? Do they have 50? Do they have like cows? Like whatever the case may be, we can absolutely put that information into the system so that if there had to be an evacuation order issued for some rural area that has lots of livestock, what do we need in order to facilitate some sort of evacuation along those lines? So yeah, we can absolutely accommodate that.
Excellent. And then Kate
Yeah,
has
and as a
another
web feature
question.
service, you can bring. Oh, so go ahead.
We can go ahead and finish that topic, Ken, and then move on to Kate's question.
Yeah, I was just gonna add on to that. I mean, essentially, you can bring in any ingestible information that you would like, layers that you have already created through your local GIS team or any other publicly available layers or layers that you might want to purchase. You can bring all of that information in. You can make it as feature rich as you would like. Any of the specific features too, you can update them to make sure that they match your conditions. So you can customize this to the extent that you need to provide the necessary information. The one question about ground truthing, I find I really appreciate the question, because I think that as a first responder, one of the things that I appreciated about onboarding with Zonehaven when we went through it was the zones specifically, and making sure that those zones matched up with what we knew we were going to want for the community that we were serving. When the algorithm creates the zones, you get the zones, you have them as a starting point, and they work great out of the box. But the reality of it is we have custom knowledge and we know the area that we serve. So we want to make sure that we go back and we look at each one of those to make sure that they meet our individual needs. So we made adjustments based upon our own local knowledge as first responders so that they were more effective and efficient when the time came to actually use them.
Excellent. How about Kate? Do you have a question?
Is there any other questions?
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm really glad to hear that there's a way to add the critical evacuation facilities. I think that's really important. And let's see. So one thing, did I understand right that within this system that basically there's a way to launch alerts via IPAWS to launch a WIA?
So not within this system. Our mass notification tool, it's called Alert, has that functionality.
Okay.
And what's nice is when those systems are tied together, let's say we updated four zone statuses or 40, those zone statuses would automatically appear on a map in our other system. So if we wanted to send, an IPAWS or a WIA out to a large location, we could actually see what was occurring in the other system and then target those exact same locations in the mass notification tool. But this tool by itself doesn't send out WIAs. It's our mass notification tool.
Okay, great. Thanks. And then I think you said that there was a way to copy to, even if it was something like Everbridge.
Yeah. So after the fact, once you publish it, you have a link right there, or right from here, you can actually download. And we partner closely with Everbridge and Code Red. So if you wanted to download this shapefile and import it into Everbridge, it would automatically put it into the Everbridge format. The other thing that we do is we will trim the vertices down to less than 100 so that if you did need to send out a WIA notification, it would meet that critical, those stringent requirements around sending a WIA notification. So we, not only can you download the shapefile, but we'll smooth it for you automatically, and then it will be uploaded into Everbridge so you can send that out.
Great. And one more quick question in terms of just thinking about traffic. So places that are particularly closely packed with people, like apartment complexes, how does the modeling of traffic and potential bottlenecks work with something like that? Does it get that granular or?
So this information, when I have a bunch of different zones selected, right, and this is a more densely populated area, if I were to turn traffic on for these zones, it's going to be slightly different. But what's nice is we actually do have a way for you to run traffic simulations based on, we have this whole hazard library. So you can actually run fire simulations, flood simulations, and then traffic simulations. So let's say I think I heard you guys were talking about the Salmon Festival coming up this weekend. If you're expecting an additional 5,000 vehicles for that festival, you could say, hey, we want to add 5,000 vehicles to this intersection, and we want to run a traffic simulation to see what intersections are going to be most impacted, how long do we anticipate that to take, and then based on that information, you can use that and say, okay, well, let's close off these 3 roads, let's put traffic control points up at these 12 locations so that maybe we can cut that 5-hour evacuation time down to like 3 hours or whatever is an acceptable amount of time. So not only do we provide, the traffic control, the intersection counts is just based on the information we get from the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, but the traffic simulation tool is actually something that gets a little bit more granular and more specific about any particular location where you'd like to run that simulation.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Mhm.
So we're definitely past our time.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot more things to cover in this agenda. I'm wondering, thank you guys so much for your time. I wonder if folks have more questions, if we could follow up with Kristen, would that be acceptable for everyone? So we
Yes,
can-
please feel free to send me any questions or any other information you would like to know.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
awesome. Thank you. So yeah, folks who have questions, please write them down. You can maybe put them in the chat if you want to capture those, Kristen. Well, it's fresh in everyone's mind, and then we
Yeah,
can
that
address
works. If
it.
people want to, yeah, if
Keep
they want to put them
firing
in the chat,
questions. Yeah, and then we can
and
address
then
those.
I can address them later. And then if something comes up at a different time, they can always email me or call me.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. I think that could have gone on for an hour. Okay. So we do have some things to update everyone on for our stuff. So our next item is early action funding project updates. So I'm going to turn it over to our contracting master, Heather, to give everyone an update on the contract part, which makes everything happen.
Oh, this is not the interesting part, but it's related to when we can start. But first I'll just say, I saw that Tanya included the early action fund projects and some updates around budgeting, and there'll be some, the budgets are very loose right now. It'll really come down to getting some time and material bids from contractors on the contracts that are going to need it. So the RCD has an MOU, memorandum of understanding with the County of Yolo for this and other types of work. And there's an amendment that's in process that once it's all completed, we'll be able to have those funds to continue forth. So with this particular set of $800,000 for those early action projects. So that is imminent, is what it appears to me. I'm talking with the county council, and in preparation, we're just trying to get ready. And we've developed request for qualifications, and that will be where we can start to gather, contractors that are qualified, licensed, and interested in doing this work. Meanwhile, Tanya has probably been working with half of you on this in this meeting in various committees related to each one of the projects to further hone down exactly where we're talking about, exactly, getting closer to the actual scope, so that when, we start to pair up contractors with projects, that we can tell them what, how many acres, or, whatever the scope is, for example. So yeah, we're just waiting on we're working with the county, eminent, and I would say we're starting in the next month or two. But then one of the first things we'll have to do, outside of continuing to spend some time making sure we know exactly what the project is. So there's sometimes when you get into, most of you probably are aware, when you start really get into planning a project, you learn more about the project requirements or parameters, and some things will change. So that'll all have to happen. And we will do our best to get started, as quickly as possible. Let's see, anything else I missed there, Tanya, or are you going to take it from here?
I'm going to take it from here. As Heather laid the groundwork, I'm going to update you on some of the updates. I did send out the project list last week, so I am going to share my screen, which is a lot easier to see the maps. So this is our Living with Wildfire hub site. You can just Google Living with Wildfire Yolo. And then you scroll down to the CWPP project map. And there's our county. So a lot of these projects are, well, these projects are all on our spreadsheet that I sent last week. And if you click on a project, there will be, you have to click right on it. There's a little box that comes up, and this basically matches the spreadsheet that I sent. So the changes are, so this project is the State Highway 128 mechanical veg control. So we have our wonderful wide CAL FIRE burn here that happens every year. And then we are proposing to do some vegetation management along the south side of 128 in order to keep wildfire from spreading into the creek and up the hills, et cetera, from throwing out cigarette butts or dragging chains, all the things that happen along state highways. So that's in the spreadsheet, what we would like to do. And this is based on a meeting with the West Winters Fire Safe Council and our Winters Fire Chief, is just continue that veg work all the way down along the creek. And it's just a narrow strip, but it's mostly pruning up undergrowth all the way basically down to Pleasance Valley Road. So that's one, it adds a bunch of miles, but it's really skinny miles. And it is working next to a creek, and we are in deep conversations with the Department of Fish and Wildlife for the permitting part, and also Caltrans, who will provide, they've committed to provide traffic control if that's needed for the vegetation work. So that's one change. The other is I met with Chief Snyder and Captain Marquez, who's the fire prevention leader in Winters, and we talked about these this Winters area Creekside fuel reduction project, which includes Dry Creek here and Prudhoe Creek here, and then the Winters West Side buffers here along all this new development. And they said those are not actually a huge concern. They are getting some complaints about fuels here, so we may do goats unless that is too difficult in town, which it can be, or maybe just some weed whacking. So I didn't change the map here, but this is likely to be shrunk down a bit. The Winters Natural Resources Commission would like to see some veg work along the edge here in Dry Creek. And these buffers, you know, this pasture here is owned by the city and pretty well maintained. So there's just a little work that has to happen here. So all that said is we'll be able to shift our focus as we should to our Western Winters area. And one of the main things that the chief would like to see, and the West Winters folks agreed, was Knox boxes on the gate so they could bring their fire trucks out without knocking down gates and cutting locks and wasting time that way. So will increase funding. That's a new project that had been included here before. So I was hoping that folks would just approve that as we make our way through this planning process. Does anyone have any questions about that? I'm seeing all sorts of things in the chat, but those are not to me. Yay.
That's something that will require a motion to add.
Yes.
Yes, because when the County Board of Supervisors offered this money to us, they said, you know, we had our dollar amounts on our spreadsheet that they approved, and any changes would have to be approved by the Fire Safe Council.
Okay.
And this is going to be happening a lot as we move through, because yeah.
So it's not an addition of funds,
before we bring it.
It's a shifting of funds for a project that doesn't need as much funding, and one new project that's been discovered, the Knox box project.
Yeah.
So I added it. There we go. Just added it to our list. We don't have we have a very rough dollar amount at this point because we don't know exactly how many gates. I think there'll be about 30. Chief Snyder wanted a Knox box or I just rounded up to about $250 each. So for those of you who don't know, that's a box on the gate with the key that can be accessed by any emergency official, and they can just get the key out with their special key, open the gate, put it back in, and no damage done. So we don't have a solid dollar amount on that, but that would come out of the Winters area Creek fuel reduction. If that all makes sense. So I guess the motion would be to add the knock boxes to this project list.
Well, I would like to move that we add the Knox boxes to the project list as you suggest.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the table. Any additional questions or discussion? I've waited a moment. Speak up.
Aye.
Anybody, any other? I'll wait another moment. Otherwise, I'll call the question. Hearing no other conversations, I'm going to call first. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. And hearing none, and then I'll ask the other question, but I'm judging from the list, we do have a quorum. I figure I'd better check that. I believe we do.
I am looking at our list and it's looking like we actually don't have a quorum tonight. We only have 13 members here.
We might have
This is something that we can do at the next meeting if needed. I don't know if it's gonna.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like wanting to rerun through the bylaws, but this isn't like a major, it's not like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It can wait.
I just want to get it done.
And it's probably better to review something. I mean, you hate to kick it and then have a long period of time between meetings, but bring it up and then actually have time. But it really does seem like a very logical project, and it's not a huge expense. So, but I figured I'd better ask the quorum question because I didn't ask it earlier, but I wasn't too worried about agendas and minutes. I usually think about that, but I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, just in process, the action to approve the agenda and minutes also is gonna have to just be like, redone next month. And maybe we should get confirmation of member attendance.
Before, put that in the agenda.
Yeah, because we may have a few other things by the next time we meet.
Yeah. To remind ourselves.
Okay, well, now you know what we would like to do. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Yeah, UC Davis should apply to be a member. And so should Catholic Charities.
Wait a minute.
I can meet
How
with you
far
offline
are
on
we
that.
off from a quorum, Allie? Because
We have 13 members present and we need 15.
So did you see Nate Hardinger?
I did, yeah, he's looks like he's from UC Davis Fire Department and they are not an official member of the Fire Safe Council.
Oh, got it. Okay, just checking. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, you have to fill out a super little easy application to be a voting member. And there's some requirements. You have to be fire safety group or a group that's been around for a year or two.
I'm guessing Allie's probably totally all over this with calculating out the quorum, but the 13, that's not counting some of the different organizations that haven't been here for more than 3 months and so aren't counted towards quorum anymore.
Interesting question.
Yeah, that is an interesting question, Kate.
Interesting.
We
Your
kind of
department
have,
hasn't been able to field somebody for most of a year, or actually a little more than a year. So
yeah, we kind of have attendance all over the board, so I'd have to look into it in particular to check that. But I just looking at the list quickly, I don't think that that would be the case. There's only a couple of people that haven't, or a couple of groups that haven't been. And so I don't know how if that would adjust the quorum much.
Okay, well, let's keep moving. Yeah, so just that's a good reason to keep things updated. Thank you, Ally. So we have a big section of reports, and we don't need to go all through them unless folks have an important report as opposed to just standing. So it looks like we just lost Kristen.
This is Neil. And I was hoping we would have a report from OES on the status of the long approved project.
Right, yes.
15 months ago approved projects.
Yeah, I think as per the coordinator report, there was no updates from last week.
Is there any way that your organization can take over management of that project? Because obviously OES seems to be overloaded and unable to manage it.
We can talk to them about it. And
Yeah,
see what they say.
It's been a lot of promises for a very long time, but very little action.
Okay, we will bring that up at our next meeting with them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. And sorry that it's been so long.
Okay, folks are already jumping off. I think the one thing that I would like to know is, do we want to try to have a November meeting? The fourth Wednesday is the 22nd, which is the day before Thanksgiving. We could do the 29th if we want to continue this project discussion with hopefully a quorum.
Is there any way we could do an email vote on a project like this?
It's a great question, Don.
Well, we can't get started yet. I mean,
that's true. It's not like
anyways,
we're
but
going to
if
be.
Our funding came in and everything got done next week, we could make an emergency meeting happen, and we can also look into the bylaws to see how we could meet in that way, or we can have an emergency meeting that's posted as per, practice. I'm not sure which practice exactly we have to follow for emergency meeting when we're not a Brown Act body, but yeah,
have to get everyone together.
But so far we're still kind of the limiting factor is the MOU at this moment.
It just seems to me, I'm not sure. I think that the holiday is going to make it really tough to get people together then,
Yeah,
and we have this
probably
really
so.
specific narrow topic that we really need to address.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
But you guys don't want to try to do the 5th Wednesday in November, which is the 29th?
I, for one, would be fine with that.
Yeah. And
Can we
maybe-
check with all the voting members in the room?
I'd be okay with it.
I might not be able to do 4 p.m. that day, but could potentially do sometime that day.
And I could.
Okay, I think maybe I'll just send an email out, throwing it out and trying to get commitments and see if we don't have a quorum, then there's no point in trying to set another meeting. So how
Good
about
idea.
that?
Good idea.
That said, the other option would be the week before as well. Before Thanksgiving.
The 15th.
That might not be a problem. Yeah. it might have the same set of problems for people too, but
Does anyone know any standing conflicts on, I guess that would be the second Wednesday of the month?
Yeah,
Oh, the 8th? Ooh, it's way too soon.
Sorry, I mean, I guess it's the third, sorry.
15th, yeah.
If it's
Okay,
the-
well, I'll do a survey. How about that? 15th versus 29th.
and we
Oh.
may also consider December as well, because that's going to be a week where unlikely. So actually, the last one in November probably would be better if we decide not to hold a December meeting.
It would cover
Or we'd have to
both.
hold an
Yeah,
earlier December. But then it would be until the end of January, so that's a long time.
agreed. Yeah.
But I think when we think about that, this is those times of years. But
Yeah.
yep.
If it's possible to include some options that aren't 4 p.m. on those 2 days, that would be great for me.
Okay, well, I think this group is mostly likes earlier anyway, so possibly. Okay, well, I'll just do the a poll. Okay, folks are disappearing, and it's past 5 o'clock. I guess one announcement that I would like to make that Solano didn't get a chance to is there is a Solano RCD's doing their plant sale this Saturday at Roosh Dollar from 11 to 4, I believe, or noon to 4. All right.
Yeah.
Are we at the point?
I think so.
We're ready to adjourn.
Let's
Ready for the
adjourn.
adjourn, and the next meeting is to be determined in an email. So
Yes.
all in favor, or somebody, I guess, do we need to make a motion? Yes.
I
Yeah,
don't
you,
think we need to.
yeah, I was gonna say, if you need a motion to adjourn, I'll do that.
Yeah, okay, all in favor?
All right.
Say bye.
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 Bye.